Hey Pierre, can you hear me now?
Actually sending out.
Okay,
I
cool.
just completed your thing, and I'm actually writing one now and doing one. Yeah,
Okay, no worries. I'm gonna go ahead and hide us, and at 1 p.m. sharp, we'll go ahead and get started.
sounds great.
make sure.
Got it now.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ritwik Pavan, and here with me today I have Pierre. I believe it's Laguerre, and we are in the meeting. Before I get Pierre on the actual interview, I do want to give it a shout out to Nico. Nico is handling all the production side stuff. Nico, you might have to come in here. There you go.
Hey, what's up?
So Nico's going to be taking care of the actual recording side. Before we get started on the podcast, want to give you guys a little background about what In the Meeting is all about. We are trying to share the stories of entrepreneurs and essentially share their successes, their failures, everything in between, and hear more about their journey. And I actually came across Pierre on social media, was able to see his startup on Republic. You guys should go check his startup out on Republic. It's called Fleeting if you haven't already. And they have been blowing up. Right now, I believe they're the #1 startup on Republic. And as of this morning, when I checked, they've exceeded over $1 million in fundraising. So super exciting stuff. Their goal is to connect commercial drivers with on-demand trucking jobs. I'll let Pierre explain it himself. But yeah, Pierre, thanks for hopping on.
Thank you for having me, Rick. Really appreciate it, man. Excited to be here. It's some good times. I mean, although we know there's challenges in our day-to-day world, but for me, it's being able to be grateful, to breathe, to see my children, to still be alive here. I think for me, it's the biggest message here. So I think regardless of what outside world look like, I will advise everyone, man, let's remain optimistic that, as long as we have another 24 hours, we can change our reality and we can change our biology. So really grateful to be here.
Definitely. So I guess getting started, Pierre, I've read everything about you. Matter of fact, I have invested in Fleeting. So I believe in everything you're doing, but to the layman, or I guess you can say to the person that doesn't know what Fleeting is and isn't as active in the startup world, in a quick, I guess, 30 seconds to a minute, what is your pitch?
Yes, so pretty much what Fleeting is, we're building a marketplace that gives shippers and motor carriers access to a pool of vetted CDL truck drivers that can operate their trucks 24/7 around the clock. And the reason why Fleeting exists, as we understand, is the huge problem in trucking. It's not that trucking companies cannot hire drivers, but they have a huge problem retaining drivers. Trucking companies are spending billions of dollars annually to find great talent and also retaining those talent. And that's creating a big problem for trucking. Like I said, the turnover is pretty much for a large enterprise is about 103%, and a small carrier is about 70, 80%. So as we understand that problem, and the reason why that problem does exist is that truckers don't have flexibilities. Truckers are always looking for a way to spend more quality time with their loved one, sleep on their bed, and at least have a proper meal. So that's creating the problem that we're seeing a high turnover, is that truck drivers are always looking for the next best opportunity. And we want to give those drivers a tool that can allow them to do that more efficiently without filling 5-10 applications every 3 months.
Hey, man, that sounds amazing. And me personally, I've never been a truck driver, but I'd love for you to share your story on what really brought this idea into fruition. What made you think, hey, there's this problem in the trucking industry. A lot of people probably wouldn't have thought about this idea. So what made you think of it, and what made you come this far with the idea?
Oh, man, I think definitely my upbringing have a lot to do with it. Early on, I was really confused. Why was I going through this? Why did I live in this community? Now I'm very grateful to have come from that community, to come from where I come from, because it gives me the ability to kind of see a bigger picture, although everything around you doesn't remotely look like success. So I think being in those communities kind of really give me that confidence and being able to keep pushing forward. So, but for me, my story really started, I was born and raised in Haiti, came here when I was about 15 years old. But in Haiti, I had this dream of becoming a doctor. I wanted to be a neurologist so bad. And the reason for that was I remember vividly as a kid, I would do something and my mom will get on me. And then 5 minutes later, I'm back again doing the same thing. And I used to say to myself, okay, is it me that's making this decision, or is it my brain making that decision? So at an early age, I was really fascinated with the brain. So I really wanted to become a neurologist. I came here in early 1997. And there's another part that I said, unfortunately for me, I think I landed on the rotten side of the apple, because, living in a third world country in Haiti, what we're seeing is the picture that we see for America, is the lights, the tall building. We see all the goods. But when I landed, it was a rough neighborhood in the early 97s. And the norm around those areas was, it was really a lot of violence, a lot of drug dealing, a lot of young men didn't have no opportunity. And that became my reality early on. And I went from dreaming of being a doctor to dreaming of how do I stay alive in that community, right? And was really trying to find a way to stay alive. And for me, I said, well, maybe I'll just get in a truck and just drive a truck across the country and wouldn't have to come back to this community. And also seeing what I was seeing in that community, I don't know, for me, it was, I refused to become a statistic. I didn't want to become a product of that environment. So I knew that I always wanted to do something better, something bigger than myself. Eventually, I did go to college. I studied electrical engineering for about a year. And due to financial hardship, it was my mom's and my 4 siblings, and I had to do something. So eventually dropped out of college, worked at XPO Logistics as soon as I got my CDL, worked for them about 2 years, then went on to work for Performance Food Group. And that company, I started doing food deliveries to local restaurants, hospitals, and schools. And this is actually, although this was a very, I don't want to say it was an unfortunate situation, but it was like, it wasn't the most lucky situation, but that situation turned me into who I am today. I started doing deliveries in the same school that I was going to, right? And for me, it was like the shame. I didn't want my friends to see me. I didn't want my professors to see me. And unluckily, one day, my professor ran into me as I'm trying to rush out the building with a hand truck, finish my delivery. And he said, Pierre, what's going on, man? How's everything going? Why's you hiding? You know, I said, well, I dropped out of college to be a trucker. You know, I didn't want to look like a loser. He said, well, how much are you making a year? At the time with PFG, I was doing about $94K a year. He said, Pierre, look, half of these kids is going to graduate and not going to see $94K per year. So look, I want you to own it, be proudful, and be the best trucker you can be. And wait, man, to be honest with you, that message really resonated with me. A year later, I purchased my own truck and became an owner operator. For the people that are listening, an owner operator, so you have a different, when you're a truck driver, you work for a trucking company, you just show up to work, they give you the keys, paperwork, you get the job done, and you go home. Now, when you're an owner operator, you actually own the asset, and it comes with a lot of responsibilities. You have to pay toll, fuel, you have to fight with brokers to find, you know, a good paying rate, maintenance on the truck, insurance on the truck, all these things adds up as me being an owner operator. And I learned a lot being an owner operator. I really did well for myself, eventually moved out of that community that I was in, started doing so well. And I was still hungry. I really wanted to learn more in trucking. So after a year, I parked my truck and took a course at Wagner College for supply chain logistics, right? And what that did for me, again, although it exposed me to trucking on a macro level, but I was still really more interested into the micro level on the day-to-day operation. And after that, I went on and took a course to become a freight broker. Now, while being the course for freight broker, there was a lot of things that didn't really resonate with me as a driver myself, to see the broker model, how they operate, although they bring a value to the industry, but the question is, to whom do they bring that value to, right? Sure. So brokers really help shippers move their product a lot more efficient, you know, cost effective. And to me, it's like, I saw that the shippers add a lot of value. I mean, the brokers add a lot of value to the shippers. But for me, it was still, okay, well, what happened with the trucking companies that owns the truck, the driver that owned that one truck? Who's actually adding value to that driver? And a year later, after finishing taking that course, I got into a car accident in Brooklyn, New York. And it wasn't in my car. It wasn't in my truck. I was actually in a car with my cousin. And that accident kind of put me out of business. That was in 2014. I had a car. I had 3 payments left for the car. It got repo. I had my truck got repo. And I found myself right back again to that same community that I had left. And while in that community, that summer, 2014, I remember I wanted to get back out again. I was like, man, something have to give. This can't be my reality. I can't accept this. So I read a book called What the CEO Wants You to Know. And my takeaway from that book was volume and profit margin, right? Then my brain started spinning and I started saying to myself, okay, well, what is it that I can sell now? I'm out of work for 11 months. I don't have no income coming in. I was an independent contractor, no unemployment, nothing coming in. So I said, well, what is it that I can sell? But I could sell at least, you know, maybe it cost 5 cents, but I could sell 1 million of them per month to make some money. Unfortunately, I wasn't creative enough to come up with anything. But however, walking in Brooklyn, New York every day, not having a car, what I did realize was the glass from the beauty salons, the barbershops, you know, the bars. And I would say to myself, I said, well, who's cleaning those glass? I said, you know, if I get 100 customers pay me $10 per glass, I said, I could make some good money. So I went and told a friend about it. I said, hey, man, I'm thinking about starting this window cleaning business. He looked at me and laughed. He was like, man, people going to think you a crackhead. And I said, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, if you look around, only crackheads are cleaning glass. I said, well, that is true. But I said, but the reality is right now, I don't have a job, no income coming in. I have my daughter. I'm going through a divorce. I said, I'd rather look like a crackhead with some money than look like a crackhead with no money. And he said, well, okay, if you get 50 customers, I'll do it with you. I woke up the following morning, solicited the entire Brooklyn. Hi, my name is Pierre. We have a service that specializes in glass cleaning. We'll do it for X, Y, and Z. That same day, I had about 72 stores agree for us to clean their glass. And I'm saying this story because cleaning glass kind of led me right back into trucking again. Now, when I was cleaning glass, we're really starting to get these customers. I said, you know what? I'm not going back to trucking. This is a lot more easier. I can scale this to build a multi-million-dollar company. But I was lying to myself. The minute we started making some money, within 3 months, we made about $62,000 cleaning glass. We had all the 7-Elevens, the Metro PCS stores, T-Mobile stores. And I took that money, then started my official trucking company in trucking, which was a staffing agency. And the reason why I started that company is because I realized truck drivers are always looking for a company that can provide some flexibility, treat them like a human being as opposed to being treated as a commodity, right? Truck drivers looking to spend quality time with their loved one. And At the same time, trucking companies are always looking for great talent drivers. So I said, well, what if I start a company where I hire the drivers, groom them, and then outsource them back to the carriers? How would that work? We launched in December 15. The first month I did 37K in revenue. The following year I did 786K. And the year after I did 1.2 million in revenue. And as we starting to see that's working, and once again, that took me back to the dream that I've had when I was in those communities to own a large fleet of trucks, right? So I took that proceed and started a trucking company this time with asset. I started with 3 trucks, grew that business to about 16 trucks in 6 months, and had another maybe 10 additional owner operators that own their own truck, and also did about 1.2 million in revenue in the first year in that company. But what was interesting is that I was running 2 businesses simultaneously by myself. I was running a staffing agency with 56 drivers on one end and a trucking company with 26 trucks. You can imagine the challenges of running those 2 companies. I was the driver, the supervisor, the sales guy. I was everything in the company. It sounds like you had a question, right?
No, so yeah, I mean, you've actually answered a lot of questions that I had, Pierre, and I think that first off, I want to commend you for, everything. It seems like you've come from very humble beginnings, and being able to do everything that you've done is, truly remarkable. I think that, especially being able to, I guess, take on the hardships and actually see a positive out of it is something that can be seen, especially in like the community today. There's so many problems that are going on. And during this time, so many people that are facing various different hardships, and to be able to share your story and be able to see all the success that you've had is really impressive. And I have to say that, I haven't heard a story like this. So I guess this all goes back to, your first window business that you were talking about. What made you, as an immigrant myself, I want to say that we often are generally seen as risk adverse. You come to America, and whether it's your family or you're coming, you want to have a steady job. You want to, make income for your family and your kids. What really made you, outside of, after dropping out of college and then being able to make that income, $94,000, what made you say, all right, let me leave all of this and go start window cleaning? Was it something inside of you that said, I'm ambitious, I want to start my own business, I want to live this so-called American dream? Or was it something, you just got frustrated and saw a problem that you wanted to fix?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all those things that you just mentioned, right? I did have the ambition, and the ambition also come from is the fear of remaining mediocre for me was number one, right? I didn't want to be average. I didn't, once again, just didn't want to be a statistic, just wanted to be something different. And I realized early on, I didn't have a dad, I didn't have my mom financially stable. I didn't come from a wealthy family to say, okay, well, I have the time to go to college to get the top education to be able to get into a certain path. I realized early on that if it is to be, it was up to me, right? No one was going to take me out of that hell. No one was going to make my situation a lot better for me. So I realized this is me. I have to do it, and I have to take a step. And regardless of what that step looked like, is I have to do it and just kind of hope what the other side will be exactly what I expected. However, I didn't expect for it to be this much challenging, but I truly appreciate those challenges now because it makes me who I am.
And you mentioned challenges. So outside of the success that you've seen, at this point with fleeting, you've expanded your inventory, you've been able to see growth in revenue. I'd say as an individual, what challenges have you seen both in your personal life and your business life when launching fleeting?
Absolutely. There is a lot of challenges, right? Even on a personal life, we can talk about that. But on the business side with fleeting is that, number one, I didn't have a tech background, right? I didn't go to Ivy League school. And as you can see, most startups, successful startup, usually, founders have a Ivy League background and usually kind of like within their own network. So for me, the challenge was, how do I adapt to technology? What do I need to learn in order to build and scale a tech company? So that was one of those challenges. And not only that, learn the lingo. How do you communicate with investors? How do you truly demonstrate what it is that you're building so they can see the value in it very early on? So for me, that was a huge challenge for the first year that I started Fleeting. But once again, I made it my job to learn, how do I navigate this ecosystem? Who do I need to speak to? What do I need to have in order to start building this company? And for me, I think that hunger really put me in a position to be, when you were a kid, when you about 10, 11, you just have a question for everything. And I realized that I became that kid and I had a question for everything. And being able to be open and saying, hey, look, I don't know this. I don't know how to build a tech company, but I know trucking. I think the ability to be very transparent kind of really make the challenge a lot easier, because people actually automatically saw the value. They understood the pain point that we talked about, but they also said, man, this thing can work if we can have a well-rounded team around it. And
sure,
those challenges became a lot more easier as I being more transparent about the challenge that I have and the things that I know and the things that I don't know really kind of help putting the right people into my path.
And that brings up a question that I actually get asked a lot. It's very clear that for you as a passionate entrepreneur, this is something almost seems to just come into place for you. Fleeting. That seems like something came from inside of you that said, I don't want to be average. I don't want to be mediocre. I want to go out there and I actually want to make a name for myself. And so that brings up a question that I get asked a lot. Do you think entrepreneurship is something that's innate? That's something you're born with? Or do you think that it's something that people can really, that something grows over time and makes them, want to be an entrepreneur?
I say that's both, right? And
Sure.
The reason I say both is, yes, somebody can be born with the entrepreneurial spirit. And also, you may not have the entrepreneurial spirit, but your current condition might force you to become an entrepreneur, right? If you're the person that have the solving mentality whenever you see a problem and you say, okay, well, this is a problem here, instead of sweeping it under the rug, how do I solve that problem? I think that can also push you into the path of entrepreneurship. So if anyone is listening, you probably have a 9-to-5. Don't feel bad because you have a 9-to-5, because in your 9-to-5, you might see a problem in that company that you will eventually want to solve. So we don't want to say that all entrepreneurs are born with that spirit, because for us is we want to empower even truck drivers to become true entrepreneurs. So they don't have to be born with it. It's also they can see a condition that they've been part of and they just kind of desperately need to solve that problem. That can also push somebody to become an entrepreneur.
Awesome. Well, so now let's get a little bit more into Fleeting, and that's what I invested in it. So definitely would love to pass that information on to other people. By the way, if you guys are watching, Fleeting is still raising money on Republic, which is a crowdsourcing platform. You can go in there, chip in as little as $100. As of right now, they've raised over $1,050,000 from what I last checked. And hopefully, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw it in the comment section, and I'll try to get that to Pierre. With that being said, Pierre, what made you choose a crowdsourcing platform to raise money as opposed to a VC or angel?
Man, a lot of things goes into that, right? And for me is I've faced a lot of challenges, raising capital from traditional VCs. And as we all understand, raising capital, period, is hard. And I don't want to kind of make it look like a racial thing, but it is very challenging to raise capital. But also what's very challenging is building a successful company. So you have to understand investors are taking a bet and they have to make sure that, you cross the T's before they make that bet. So I realized that challenge very early on. And one of those challenges that I've realized for minority founders was that too often they expect a minority founder to have a successful business today, right? In order to gain that conviction to invest. So for me, I realized that was one of my disadvantage, but also kind of looked at it, okay, well, how can I take this disadvantage and turn it into my greatest advantage? And as I started doing more research about crowdfunding and looking at other tech companies that's in the logistics space, and I didn't see no companies, once again, doing something that actually improved the driver life or even allow those drivers to have part ownership in those companies. So I said, well, okay, we're building a platform that want to serve truck drivers, that want to serve trucking companies. I think it makes perfect sense to allow truck drivers to become ownership in Fleeting by at least owning some percentage of shares in the company. So we decided to launch on Republic, and the goal was just to raise $25,000 just to give truck drivers the early opportunity to buy into the company. And by the grace of God, man, I think like you said, we've exceeded that amount over 4,000%. on the 25,000. A lot of drivers see the value in it, and not only the drivers seeing the value on it, but also what really gets me moving is the public. So being able to have the public to buy in into something that you're building that serves them every day. Just like you say, you're not a truck driver, you don't know about truck, but you consume stuff every day that actually goes hand in hand with trucking. You have a headset on, and I'm pretty sure you ate this morning, right? You got clothes, you got furniture. Right. All these things was brought to you by a truck driver. So I think for us, being able to launch on crowdfunding, we wanted to get the public to raise their awareness on the challenges that it is for truck drivers, so for trucking companies, and we wanted to the everyday consumers to truly see things don't just appear in front of your door, right? There is a truck driver that's actually going through hell trying to bring you those goods. So we wanted to bring that message to the forefront, and I think it worked well. And we have a lot of drivers that invested into the platform as much as consumers.
Yeah, and just to give an idea to the people that are watching this, out of the $25,000 goal that you had planned to raise, you currently have raised 4,205% of that goal, which is incredible. So clearly people resonate with the idea. So now with all this money that you've gotten now out, you had this initial goal of $25,000 and now you have over $1 million that you are able to invest back in your company and, really gain traction. To the people that have invested that money, what do you plan on doing? Because you clearly had a different mindset going in trying to raise 25K. And now you definitely must have a different plan with, the amount of money you've raised now. So what's your plan with these funds? What do you plan on doing with it?
Absolutely. As we all know, any businesses, cash is king or cash is oxygen, right? So the more that you can get into your orbit, the better it is. So for us, as we understand is we want to be very aggressive. We want to grow fast, right? We want to make sure that we really capture a large percentage of market share. And you understand that in order to do that, you have to have capital to do it. So now that we do have that capital and we already kind of plan where that money will be allocated. So for us, we definitely will be looking towards user acquisition, which is onboarding and recruiting more drivers. We want to do more customer acquisition. We want to build a more robust product, hiring more engineers, and we also want to do some marketing. And with that, we looking to achieve a goal of having at least 3,000 active drivers and also 300 active customers in the next 18 months that can reflect about 15 million a month in GMV. So we want to be super aggressive, and we want to make sure that we give our shareholders, the truck drivers, and the people that we set out to serve, we want to make sure that we do the right thing.
Awesome. And so I guess the $1 million question, how do you make money? How do the investors plan on, hopefully seeing an acquisition or you going public out of this? Maybe one day, like Uber, if we can see fleeting, hit the NASDAQ.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's the end goal, right? We want to make sure that all of our investors that believed in us from early on get a good, decent return on this, right? And how do we do that? First, before we talk about acquisition, before we talk about going IPO, I think we all understand that we have to build a sustainable, solid business first. So for now, our main focus is building a true business, a true technology company with a lot of values. However, we don't know what the acquisition will look like in 3 years or 5 years from now. I don't want to name names, but there is companies that can see value in it. If you look at Walmart, if you look at Amazon, those are large logistic companies that's hiring thousands of drivers every day, and they're going through the same pain point. So there's a lot of potentials there, but also being able to be in a position to build a mega company where we can be a $50 billion company as well, trading on the NASDAQ. Those are the things that keep me moving as well, and giving our shareholders a great opportunity to kind of, reap their investment. And also too, for let me stress something is the end goal for fleeting is not just the capital, it's not just being able to say, hey, look, we went public, but also is how do we change lives? How do we change truck drivers? Like, how do we put them on a better path to become entrepreneurs? And not only that, as I talked about me coming from a marginalized community, trucking, the industry saying, hey, look, there's a shortage of about 200,000 drivers. For me, I find that very appalling to say, hey, our nation is short 200,000 drivers, but you have inner cities in America where you have young men and young women are looking for opportunities and they don't have a way to look to. So Fleeting want to be the company that bridge that gap, that goes back to those communities and teach these young men and young women to become truckers themselves, to become true entrepreneurs and see what trucking can do for them as much as it's done for me. So I think what the message is here, our investors will enjoy the benefit of making money at the same time changing lives as well. So that's one of the things that we really look out for.
And that's one of the neatest aspects of why I had actually wanted to get you on this podcast, Pierre, was because, being able to not only react to this problem that you saw, but also being able to kind of reflect a little bit in, what you saw in the past, the problems that you faced, and being able to come up with a solution to, go back in and help this community that you could, that you've been a part of is really one of the reasons why I truly believe that Fleeting is going to succeed. So I guess to give a little bit more insight to the viewers and anyone that's going to be listening to this podcast, what is one piece of advice that you can give to several students are at home right now? No school, it's summertime, people are bored beyond belief. It's a crazy time to be alive with this coronavirus. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a prospective, a person that's potentially looking to launch a startup but hasn't gotten quite there? What is your recommendation to them?
Yeah, my recommendation would be, number one, stay optimistic. Believe in the thing. I say this all the time. 24 hours is the best thing ever invented, right? As long as we have another 24 hours, we can change. We can do better. And also, one thing that I will leave is, don't ever let your current situation determine your final destination, right? So if you're there right now, you're in the weeds of it and you're going through it, you're probably seeing, hey, look, there's no opportunity. It doesn't mean this is what 3 months is going to look like. It doesn't mean this is what 6 months is going to look like. But however, you have to start. Like they say, a journey with a million steps, start with just one step. So don't be afraid. Grab life by the horn. At the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen? Fail. But to me is, how do you understand? How do you take failing, right? So there's two ways you can look at failure. Like, if you accept failure, then that's defeat. But if you look at failure as an opportunity to learn and do it again, that means you will always be able to reinvent yourself and always be able to do better. So I would say, go ahead and hurry up and fail now and learn and iterate on yourself. So that's one thing I've learned is building tech, building product, is that you have to learn fast and iterate fast. And I think that's a message that goes to any entrepreneur. Put yourself in a position to where you have to learn fast, and that will also force you to iterate fast. So I think you just have to grab life by the horn, man, and make the bet. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to grow wings just by sitting down and thinking about all the obstacles or all the things that can go wrong. So don't use them as a stepping stone. Make sure you use every obstacles in your way as a stepping stone.
And I don't think anyone else could have said that better. I think that would have been the perfect way to end this podcast with you. But just out of curiosity, just personal curiosity is, seeing this blow up at an unbelievable rate, and this has been on for a few months, where you guys have essentially been on the homepage of Republic. Have there been any big VCs that have reached out to you in terms of taking an opportunity in investing in you guys? Has this shifted? I guess, has this changed anything up in terms of the actual workflow within Fleeting? I'm sure your team is very optimistic now in terms of the success of it. I'm just curious to know how this has kind of changed your life personally. And also, I'm sure that you've got plenty of big VCs reaching out to you. Have any of them already invested?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can answer that question. So for me, what I've learned early on as well, especially in any business, especially a tech startup, relationship is what gets you to the next milestone, right? So being able to be on Republic, I think that opened up the door for a lot of big relationships. A lot of big VCs are reaching out, really speaking and really building that relationship. Some VCs don't do seed round, but they're really actually on the sideline waiting to participate in Series A. And also, yeah, there is a lot of VC that are reaching out now. They're saying, hey, look, how can I participate through a safe note as well? I'll put, 5K on Republic, 10K on Republic. I love what you guys are doing and really love to support the cause a lot further. And not only that, those VCs made tons of intros. So for me, I think being able to have that network of VCs that actually truly believe, not just in the product, right? Because I've learned that, as we all understand, VCs don't invest in product. VCs invest in CEOs and founders in the vision. So for me, I think that was a big lesson that we've learned, and I truly understand how important that is to have that network of people that believes in you. Because by one person believing in me, that actually 10x my motivation, that 10x my confidence. So I think it's very important to have that network, and I think Republic have done a great job by being able to create that ecosystem of VCs that want to help through the crowdfunding, but also willing to help outside of the crowdfunding as well. So I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome. And someone wise once told me, Pierre, it's not the grades you make, it's the hands you shake. So I think that resonates exactly with what you said. And my mom said, it's the grades you make and the hands you shake. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but
that's true. We can take it both ways.
But with that being said, Pierre, I want to thank you for your time and hopping on here, being able to share your story, your successes, your hardships, and it really does mean a lot to me that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to do this for this, for the podcast and anyone that's listening. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the viewers? And this is going to be going up on Spotify, by the way, so people who didn't get to hear it out right the second, they can definitely check it out. It's coming soon. But feel free to share anything else that you had in mind.
Yes, absolutely. There was one part of my story that I think is very important to where I am today. As I was telling, when I was running those two companies simultaneously, in 2017, I had a son that was born with Down syndrome, and that actually shattered my world. Like my numbers started falling apart. My son went into surgery, I would say around March 2018. He had to have open heart surgery, being born with Down syndrome. Things went good the first surgery, then he had a second one around May 2018. While he was in that second surgery, my mother came in town to visit him, and she lives in Orlando. And I stopped at this restaurant to get some food for my mother. And I was really brutally attacked from an attempt carjacking robbery. And I had my skull cracked. I don't know if you can see this line in my head, but I had 7 staples in my head. My forehead is not my skull here. I have a titanium plate in my forehead. And that really kind of put everything at zero. But at first, when my son was born, I was a little bitter, right? I had this victim mentality where I was saying, wow, God, why do I have to be stuck with a child with special need? As much good as I've done while running those two businesses, I've teach young men how to get their CDL. I've put them on a different path to take care of their family. So I really was feeling a little bitter. But seeing how hard my son was fighting in a hospital at 4 months old, because we both ended up in the hospital at the same time. And I said, God, if this kid can put up a fight at 4 months old, I said, there's no way I'm giving up on this dream. I said, get me out this hospital alive. I will build a team. I will add technology to build a sustainable, successful company. And 12 days later, I came out the hospital and hit the ground running. And that was in May 2018. Did the entire May, speaking with investors, getting those, going to pitch competition, learning a lot, to actually getting our first investment from Quake Capital. Shout out to Quake Capital. And early 2019, went through the accelerator. And from there, we launched our product in early July, which is the MVP. And today, from then, we were seeing a 20% month-over-month growth. And to date, we've done about 1.3 million in revenue. Our drivers have logged in over 30,000 hours in our platform and moved over 4,000 loads for our customers. So once again, I'm saying this to say, right, I could have sat in the hospital. I could have just said, hey, look, you know what? I'm a victim now. I can't work. Let me find some way to kind of collect, how you call it, disability. But once again, it's just sitting down and become a vegetable and not being able to push forward didn't resonate with me again. And I used that moment as a fuel to keep me going. And now I have 3 beautiful children. They're my rock, especially my son. He's my biggest motivation, and he's teaching me patience. And now I realize why God put him in my life. So I needed him to be around in order to get that next push. So I'm very appreciative of him, and I can't wait for what the future holds. And at the end of the day is that, I can't drop the ball in a sense is where it's like I have 3 of them watching, and I have people like you, the investment community, truck drivers, that's actually rooting for us. So failing is not an option. My job as a CEO, although it's very challenging, especially any business in trucking, and you add technology to it, is very hard. But for us as a CEO, as a team, our job is to do the hard things and make it look easy. So we want to make sure that we turn every stone to find that solution and keep growing.
You just got to smile through it all, right?
That's it, man.
No, that story really touched me, and I appreciate you sharing something that personal with the people that are listening. I think that being able to come out of all that hardship that you even faced earlier, and then this happening to you, I almost think that at this point you're just never going to give up. So I'm a happy investor. I think you're going to make it happen, Pierre.
That's not an option.
No, the success is.
As long as I have breath in my lungs, I will continue fighting for this problem. And also, number 2 is I don't think I'll be able to live with myself if I don't solve this problem. So this is how serious it is for me. There is no plan B.
So to all those that are listening, for Pierre, success is the only option, and he's going to do whatever he can to make fleeting a success. I'll go ahead and share the Republic URL so that you guys can actually go in, check it out, and feel free to invest. From everything that I've gotten on this podcast, Pierre, I'm actually just going to go in and put some more in because I think you are the perfect person for the job, and I think you're really going to make this happen. With all being said, I appreciate you for your time and being able to get on here. I will be in touch with you in regards to any other opportunities, anywhere I can help out. And the episode 2 on Spotify will be coming soon. Thank you for your time, Pierre.
Thank you, Ritwik. Really appreciate it and look forward to staying in touch.
Yep. And thank you, everyone, for who actually got on this. This is the first time I've actually done this. So pretty sweet. We'll grow on from it, and appreciate you guys for hopping on. Thank you.
Thank you.